Good morning, this is Wendy Briggs with the part one of our series on Good to Great by Jim Collins. Now, Good to Great is an exceptional book. It really is quite remarkable. Jim Collins put together a study. His first book was called Built to Last and How to Build a Great Company. But what about those companies that are good? You know, he talks about how having a good company or a good school is often the enemy of becoming great because we get complacent. So in this book, really he's answering the questions about why there are some companies that defy gravity and convert from mediocrity into long-term superiority. And if it's possible, what are some of those universal, timeless characteristics that we can utilize to transform our already good dental practice into a great dental practice? So they use a series of benchmarks and activities that we are going to explore in this series. And some of the questions that we'll be trying to answer really are all about what's the overt benefit from taking our already good practice and trying to transform it into something great that really performs at a much higher level than many of the other practices out there. And what are those things that can help us cause a dramatic difference in our day-to-day operations and help us transform our company from good to great? So in the context of this book, he explores some pretty compelling examples, and I'm just going to share one of them with you here this morning. One case was Walgreens. Many of you probably recognize this logo here. And Walgreens for 40 years bumped along as quite an average company, more or less tracking along with some of the other competitors in the market. But something critical changed, and that's what we're going to be exploring. In 1975, seemingly out of nowhere, Walgreens started to climb. And it just kept climbing, really. From December 1975 to the year 2000, $1 invested in Walgreens beat $1 invested in Intel by nearly 2 times, in General Electric by nearly 5 times, in Coca-Cola by nearly 8 times, in the general stock market by over 15 times. So how did they do this? How did a company with such a long history of really being nothing special transform itself into an enterprise that outperforms some of the best-led organizations in the world? So this book is not really specifically about one company in general. It's not about Walgreens, but it's about how a good company can become a great company and how companies like Walgreens have done that. So Jim Collins in this book shares that he believes any organization can substantially improve their performance and even become great if they conscientiously apply the framework of ideas that we'll be sharing with you and discussing in this series. So the question really is, what's in it for me? Obviously, being a part of a dental team, you contribute to whether our practice is a good practice or a great practice. Why should I believe in this exercise or in the practice in and of itself? Well, hopefully some of these questions will be answered for you in the context of this series. And another powerful question is, why should I care? You know, aren't I just here to punch the time clock and take home a paycheck? Well, hopefully we have a little bit more ownership than that. You know, we want a team of people that are constantly working towards continuous improvement, because we cannot become truly great without a great team of people that care truly about the long-term health of not just our patients, but also our practice. So with that said, it's no harder really to build something great than to build something good. Often the fundamental differences aren't all that difficult, and they're really not that much different. So let's explore some of these surprising findings that Jim Collins shares in the book. He talks about level 5 leaders, what not to do and what to stop doing. He talks about how to better embrace and utilize technology, how to manage change, and some of these things that can help us completely transform our organization. So some of the key concepts that hopefully you'll be discussing here as a team is really some of the key concepts that we're going to break down and explore in more detail. Starts with level 5 leadership. So the key question is, first who and then what? And then down the road in subsequent parts of the series, we'll be confronting the brutal facts, discussing the hedgehog concept, looking at a culture of discipline, technology accelerators, and then we'll take a good look at the flywheel in the doom loop. So really, really exciting key concepts here. And it really all begins with this flywheel and starting with level 5 leadership, first who and then what. And that's really going to be our focus here for today. Disciplined people and having the right people in the right positions in the practice. We've often talked about, do you have the right people in the right places on your bus? And this is exactly what Jim Collins is teaching here when he talks about level 5 leadership. And when we look at the tiers here, level 1, we often begin with a highly capable individual. Okay, level 2, we've shifted to a contributing team member. And then when we get to level 3, we have a competent manager. So these are all really important people in our structure. But how do we move them into a level 5 leadership? That's really what we're going to be exploring. So after we have a competent manager, we have an effective leader. But level 5 executives are far and above different than the others. So when we look at the highly capable individual, usually this person makes productive contributions. Often it's because of some talent that they have, knowledge, skills, and good work habits. So a lot of us, maybe we all started at this level, highly capable individual. And then when we shift from that role to a contributing team member, often we have individual capabilities that we are contributing to the achievement of our group objectives. So we have goals, and we're all really working to contribute what we can to accomplish those goals. This contributing team member works very, very well with others in a group setting. So from there, we often will try and develop some competent managers. Now, the manager role, once we reach a level 3, this individual has a talent or an ability to organize people and resources, really towards the pursuit of our predetermined objectives. So then we have the effective leader. So this effective leader catalyzes the commitment of other team members and helps organize a vigorous pursuit of the vision of the practice. Higher performance standards. I mean, that's really what we're searching for from an effective leader, is how they can achieve a higher level of performance from other members of the team. Now, what differentiates these 4 levels from a level 5 executive? Well, level 5s help to build enduring greatness through a blend of personal humility and professional will. And the companies that are truly great have level 5 executives at the helm and other executives, other leaders within the team that embrace these principles. So often with level 5, what we see is an individual who channels their ego and then their personal needs away from themselves and into the larger goal of what the practice needs. So they're very ambitious, but their ambition is first and foremost for the practice or the institution, the company itself, not themselves. So this is what differentiates truly great companies, is the practice or the company comes first before any self-interest of the leaders. And that can be really difficult to embrace. So just to review, when we look at a level 5 leader, when we look at level 5 leadership and the characteristics that we need to have, it's more about the plow horse than the show horse. We're not out to show anybody, but we are fanatically driven to achieve results. So level 5 leadership is really an interesting combination of professional will and personal humility. So here's where we look at first who and then what. Okay, so what we're looking at is first we've got to make sure that we've got the right people. And I know that many of you have worked really hard to have the right people in your practice. So now we need to determine the direction we want these people to go. And that's when we begin transforming our practice from good to great. We've got to look at first who and then what. It's easier to change direction. We don't need to motivate. With the wrong people, it won't matter which direction you're going because they're not on board and they're not going to be able to do what it takes to get you to transform from good to great. So once you have the right people, then it's actually easier to transform your company or your practice from good to great. So I love this. The biggest bottleneck on growth is not products, markets, competition, or technology. It's the ability to get and keep enough of the right people. So the right person has more to do with character traits and innate abilities than specific knowledge, background, skills, or experience. And I know some of you are no stranger to this. We often will say hire on personality, hire on character, and the knowledge and skills can be taught. So the right people are critical. So here's where we get to the exercise portion of our session here today. Level 5 leadership has 2 primary components. We want to put level 5 leaders in the most powerful seats and then create a level 5 leadership culture. So I want you to take just a few minutes and grade yourselves. How are you doing with this? The grade range A, you're going to rate yourself an A if you exemplify this trait exceptionally well. There's limited room for improvement. We've already pretty much got this figured out. B, we often exemplify this trait, but we also have room for improvement. C, we have some evidence, but our record is spotty, hit or miss. D, you're going to score a D if there's little evidence that we exemplify this trait and we have obvious contradictions. So now with F, you operate almost entirely contrary to this trait. So you're going to go through your diagnostics and you're going to be asked a series of questions and you want to rate yourself according to the grade range and the scale that I've just reviewed. So this is a really great place to start. You can determine where you are with your team. If you have the who in place, then we can discuss the what. Okay, so what you first want to do is evaluate your leaders. Evaluate the key people you have in leadership positions in your practice. And then it's time for discussion. We want to brainstorm, talk about the results that you each have individually. But then you're going to want to focus on the areas where maybe you scored low. Come up with ideas. Brainstorm about strategies for infusing the team with ambition for the company. How can we get our team to embrace the good to great mindset? And you may want to come up with an action plan to focus on for the next few weeks. So this is the first step in beginning your good to great transition. So go ahead and take a few minutes and evaluate how you are doing with your level 5 leadership strategies. Thanks for joining us.